back a bit, or I don't know, reevaluate your relationship and ask different question, plan different scenario in your head. If I take off sex from this relationship, I was actually on Facebook today and I actually saw an interesting story and I would like to share it with you guys. Okay, so there was this lady, she's been dating this guy for about 3 years. And so it looks like it has gotten to a point where she's basically the one pouring into the relationship. She's the one asking for dates, she's the one asking for, gifts, and it's becoming very frustrating. And she started to resent him. And now she wants to know, like she's actually confused and she thinks maybe she's exaggerating or just doing too much. And I feel like this is a lot of questions and a lot of issues that I see a lot when people are just still in a relationship knowing that it's actually faded, like the love isn't there anymore. So, and that's why we are talking about this question today, about this topic today. I would say it's, when do you know when it's time to move on in a relationship? And my name is Evelyn, and I'm actually excited to be here today. I'm a matchmaker and the founder of Love Circle, and I'm also here with.
My name's Adam, a licensed coach with the International Coaching Federation, and I'm excited to talk about this topic because it sounds like in this story, this lady has a couple things kind of going on. One of which I would say is the most important thing, is resentment. Typically, I see when one person is resenting the other person, it's almost like the four horsemen of the apocalypse. It's about time to move on.
Yeah, and I think that's the issues about this lady, because it was like she was just ranting, and I really felt bad for her because I do not. It's like it gets like it was basically, I'm thinking, fun at the beginning, because I think she mentioned something like the guy has only gotten her flowers like 5 times in 3 years. And I don't know, Adam, you're a guy, right? I want to ask, from a guy perspective, um, why do you think men start withdrawing or start being cold in a relationship?
Well, in regards with relationships, the reason why they're withdrawing is maybe they've just lost the spark. Maybe the things that made them feel loved stopped happening and they no longer feel loved. And so they're like, it's time to withdraw. Or maybe it's an issue of, I'm investing all my time, money, and energy into this individual, and they're not going to give me back what I need or what I want. And as opposed to having the conversation of, hey, this is what I'm expecting of the relationship. Instead, what they're going to do is they're going to withdraw and they're going to almost make the other person break up with them. They don't want to break up with them, but they'll set the conditions for her to break up with them.
Hmm, that's interesting. I think, yeah, I agree with that, but also I also looked at it in a different perspective. And because of a similar story like that, I look at it like I said, they are just dating. And why should you be living? That's my opinion, though. Why should you be living with a guy for 3 years while you guys are just dating? I think that's like, I feel like when you, I don't think you should be living with a guy, continue to live with him for 3 years. I feel like there should be conditions, like you should only date for a certain amount of time, which means before a guy would want to come to me and say, okay, I like you, I want to date you, he should be ready. And if he's not ready, date me from my house. For me, I feel like it gets to a point where the guy takes you for granted, to leave your house, live with him, do all wifey duties, cook for him, regular sex like you married couple. You're basically couples. He hasn't and is not entitled to those type of treatment yet. Why will he want to put a ring on it? Only if it's just, some people are just great people, you know what I'm saying? But why, what's, there's nothing to motivate him to want to, because basically you're acting like couples. And I feel like, I think that's one of the issue I'm seeing. You're giving a boyfriend a wife privilege. right? It shouldn't. I don't support that because I see that is why there's a lot of issues out there. And when it comes to dating, that's what I think from the different stories I've been seeing this week.
It's funny you say that. So I hear from a lot of my male clients the opposite, which is I have a woman, I take her out on meals, I drive her around, I pay for gifts, I take her out on dates all the time, and yet what is she giving me? And I hear the opposite version of that, which is just the look at everything that I'm doing, and then she's doing nothing. And it's so interesting just to hear the flip side of that little conundrum. In regards with, yeah, in regards with like people like not getting married, I think from a male perspective, a question that needs to be asked is what benefit does marriage have for a man? Like when we really get into it, it's like, what more could marriage offer a man that he doesn't already have? In fact, many men look at marriage as a thing of, well, if I marry you, half of my stuff could potentially be yours if you cheat on me or you leave me. And they hear a lot of negative or horror stories from other men about women that they marry and then things go south with them. And so I know many men that are quite scared of marriage. In this case, however, it sounds like something else is going on with the relationship. It sounds like the relationship is has changed quite a bit because in the story of this woman who they moved in together, things were going well, and then they changed. And then she's getting frustrated because she's sitting there going, I want him to love me. I want him to do all these things for me, but he's not doing them anymore. And that makes me upset and frustrated. And you can almost hear that desperation in the post.
Yes, yes. It's unfortunate that a lot of men don't see, if some men don't see the value in marriage anymore. I believe that marriage and dating is different things entirely. Marriage is me saying that's my husband, right? There's the type of claim ownership, like that's my man. You can build something together. It's unfortunate that divorce will happen, separation will happen. There is risk. That's risk. In everything, there is risk. It's like you're trying to start a business. You're going to put your sweat, your energy, your money, and there's a possibility that you're going to lose the money. There's a possibility it's not going to work. And that is the risk. But because you've seen the reward, which is a business, which means, oh, I could be rich from this. I could build a legacy from this. So that's the benefit, and you want to give it everything you got. The same with marriage. Marriage is beneficial because you're building a home, you're building a family, you're building structure, you're building your next generation, right? It's different. Dating is, I feel dating is, let me get to know this person and see this person is the one I want to marry. Let me see this person is someone I want to live and spend the rest of my life with. But unfortunately, part of it is loss, which means you could lose half of your property if you guys end up divorcing. There are even common law you could even still lose, something if you've lived with someone for a particular amount of years. So that's the difference. It's unfortunate that a lot of people, because some people are just so mean, and they've really made it so difficult for people to want to settle down. But I also feel like this is why I look at it. When a man, before you approach a woman, you should be able to know her at some point, know some things about her, and based on the kind of things you want for yourself. Maybe you want a woman that would come together with you and build something, right? You want to make sure that she has some type of maybe career path, some future. She's intelligent, she's industrious, she's someone that is capable of supporting you. That is the value that she brings. And then you say, okay, now I want to join together with this person and build this beautiful life together. It is not the fact of it is not you seeing a beautiful girl, you go into a relationship and you're not asking yourself what. I feel like a man that does that does not mature enough, because is not seeing the bigger picture, like the value a woman even in your life alone to say, baby, good morning, I made you breakfast. That is value that she brings, right? There are some women that are very rich and they're well to do. They don't even need a man to provide, but they want a man to come. Just they need that company. They need a man to say, okay, babe, I need help with this. Can you help me to, mount the TV, move the chair, whatever. They just need that company. So that's the value that a man brings, right? So but value is relative. But when you start asking what value, that means you don't have much value. Like it's a childish. I don't think it's a mature man that is ready to commit and build something beautiful like family shouldn't see shouldn't see a person like that. Everybody is valuable. That's my opinion, right? So you choose wisely and make sure you choose someone that can bring value to you based on where you see yourself going, you know, the alignment. So I don't like that question. What value? I don't like it.
But it is an important question to ask because when I talk to individuals about relationships, one of the things I see time and time again is I have everything in my life. I can provide for myself. I have my own job. You know, I have friends. I live a very active life. I can vacation, and I'm looking for a partner that can add more to that. And if they can't, I'm just not interested, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it just is. But in regards with a dating and kind of marriage, when we look at marriage, I always see marriage more as a partnership between the individuals. They're working together for a common goal, they're moving towards a common future. And if you don't have that common future, you're not moving forward. It sounds like you guys are more drifting apart.
Yeah, I think and that's why I said if you know where you're going, find someone that aligns with that. If you, I know of a guy, this couple, the guy is doing very well, has a good job, a great job, and the wife doesn't work, right? But and the value she brings is different, right? So she's taking care of the kids, she makes sure that they're eating healthy and all that, and is able to bring the money and is actually doing so well than men that have the wife men homes with two couples, like two, the husband and wife working, right? Because she provides a kind of, she makes him feel at home when he comes in. She makes him feel is at peace. They're like friends. So that's the value. So it's relative, right? And for situations where, for example, that this particular lady, I think it just get to a point where both of them just like it just stop pouring into the relationship, right? I think it might be going through some things, you know, and it's very important that she talks to him because I think she said she's spoken to him so many times and she's sick of it. And I feel like if you are not happy with your relationship, part of maturity is letting them go because it's so like I don't think it's nice for you to just tie someone down when you're not interested. And when they are still holding on to this hope that one day you're going to change because they love you, right? I think it's just fair enough to just stop confusing people, let them go. Like a mature person, just say it. Because it's unfortunate that although it is glaring that he's no longer interested, but she's still trying to hold on to something by asking us those questions.
Well, and it's the idea that she's 50% of the problem, he's the other 50% of the problem. And if both parties aren't interested in coming to the table to make it work, it's just simply not going to work, like at all. It doesn't matter how hard she works. If he's not interested, it's done. And it's the same thing for the man. If he wants to really make this work and she's not interested, there's no relationship. And that's where the conversation kind of starts coming into, which is, hey, do you even want to make this work? Like, is this a relationship that we're going to be able to work out together? And if he says yes, then we have a conversation. If he says no, that's like awesome. It sounds like we're no longer a fit and we just move on. And in regards with how do you know when it's time to move on, it's when you're seeing them just checking out. You start having the conversation of, hey, are you still interested in making this work? If they say that they are, then the question becomes like, how do we make this work? Maybe it's going through marriage counseling or couples counseling. Maybe it's talking it out between you and just working, just making it work. But again, if the other person says, I'm not really feeling this anymore, this isn't for me, then it's time to just step away.
Mm. Okay. Hmm. Yeah, I do. I believe I agree with everything you said. I think it takes two, right? And if it's not working, you can hold it to you can hold both ends, right? Like you guys have to be committed to wanting to work on the relationship because, for example, there are still two single people. Imagine if they now bring kids in there because I know there are situations where I've seen people that would want to tie a guy down, for example, with kids, and I've seen guys do that too. Funny enough, yes, where they want to impregnate the girl because they want her so much and she doesn't want them, and she's shown it so much. She's even told him, or both ways, and they want to tie them down with a child, thinking that it might get better or the child could bring them together. What do you think about that? That happens a lot, actually.
That's a terrible idea. Don't bring a child into a relationship that is already broken. Like, full stop. That poor child and what they're going to go through. If it's not working, then having a child and bringing them into it is just no, don't
Disaster.
do it.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot, actually. So which means, so what do you think? How best can you move on from it? I think she's really struggling with moving on, and I think that's why she's asking the question. How do you think she can move on? Is that an easy way?
Well, when we look at the change theory model, there's pre-contemplative, contemplative, planning, and action. So pre-contemplative is like you're not really ready for the change. Contemplating is you kind of like how things are right now, but you're thinking about moving on. Planning is you're actually, you know what, I'm moving on, and then action is going on with your plan. She's very clearly in the contemplative stage of change. She's like, I really like this relationship and I want to make it work. However, I don't like how I'm being treated. And so what she needs to do is she needs to start talking it out with either somebody or herself and sitting down and saying, is like, could things change? Could they genuinely change? Because if they can't, it's time to move on. Are the benefits worth or are the pros worth the cons? And really just talking it out, because right now she's clearly not ready for planning, and she's definitely not ready for action, but she needs to just start talking it out and seeing the bigger picture to come to that decision of should she stay or should she move on. And to be honest, just from that little post, I hear that she's frustrated, but there's not enough information to definitively say if she should move on or not.
Okay, so more like conversation is important to have between those two. I kind of like those the way you described it. I think it's very helpful for people to kind of apply it and see and make, basically you can make decisions, any type of decision from that. I've seen a lot of people also say when you're dating a guy and it has gotten to the point where maybe he's taking you for granted or is becoming very cold in a relationship, just find somebody else and start dating that person and switch. What do you think about that?
Oh my gosh, that is, I have opinions about that. So, anytime anyone says they are taking me for granted, the first question is, what does that mean? You tell me what that means. And then the next question is, out of everything that your partner is doing, what is he doing for you? Or what is she doing for you? Because sometimes what ends up happening is they feel like they're being taken for granted, but in reality, their partner is actually doing a lot for them. They're just not speaking to that individual's love language. And so they don't feel loved because they're sitting there going, Yeah, well, he mows the lawn and he picks me up and drops me off, but he doesn't take me out on dates. It's like, yeah, but he's doing a lot of things for you. You're just not seeing them or not counting them as something that is beneficial to you. Like he's texting you every night before bed. He's texting you good morning. He's getting you flowers. He's doing all these things, but he's missing one or two items, and that's making you feel unloved and makes you feel that you're being taken for granted.
Mhm. And then what do you think about she switching the advice of, I hear that a lot, of switching, like, because for someone like she's dated him for 3 years, it's gonna be difficult for her to break up. The heartbreak can be so much, and it might be easier for her to find somebody else, and then if the person is good enough, maybe better than the boyfriend, then she can move, and then the heartbreak won't be too much. So at least she has somebody now. It happens to both men and women. I think they both do that. What do you think about that?
Of just moving on from one person to the next.
As
Well, it's
as an
go
easy
ahead.
way to deal with breakup?
Well, again, you have to sit down and you have to list out the pros and cons because moving on from one person to the next person, it's not like the next person is going to be your Prince Charming. It's not like he's not going to be without his flaws. You have to sit down and you have to think to yourself, okay, one, is this relationship fixable? Two, am I happy with this relationship? Because just jumping ship to the next person, who knows? Maybe you'll find the next person and then 3 or 4 months you'll be stuck in the same issue. In which case, the question is this really them or is this you? And that's a big question to start asking. And so it's, I would love to say, yeah, just jump ship. If it's hard, just jump ship. No, I would always argue that if things are challenging or difficult, you should always be trying to make it work with the person first and foremost, because just jumping ship doesn't necessarily mean the grass is going to be greener on the other side. Sometimes it, sometimes it's dead.
Yeah, sometimes it's dead and sometimes it can be good. Sometimes movies, sometimes things, someone said something, said you'll be shocked that you think because someone broke your heart, that you think their life is going to go crazy and bad from there. Trust me, they might actually have a beautiful life. So, it could be both ways. It could be greener and not. So, I feel like there are some relationship that obviously is just gotten to the end. Everything ends. We are all going to end one day. So sometimes the reason, and that's why I say it, dating. Some people confuse dating to marriage. I feel like dating is just a way to see if somebody is compatible with you. You're just saying, you're just, you know what you want, and if you don't, there's no alignment, maybe, and that's why you did for a while, because sometimes someone can fake it for three months, and you want to date for maybe a year. I think a year is good enough to see the different type of the person, different dimension of the person. You see them when they're sad, when they're happy, all those times, all those different versions. So I think 1 year would be like a good amount of time so you don't rush things. But I would say don't confuse, stop looking at the commitment of dating to dating is easy. I won't say it's easy. You still put work, but it should be easy for you to say, okay, this is not what I want, and move on. Then when it comes to marriage, you can work on things, right? You can work on things, but there are some things that obviously you can work on it and move on. The issue is a lot of people get to that point where they know that is not working and they keep prolonging it and they keep suffering and suffering and suffering, hoping that it changes. And that's why there's a lot of crazy heartbreak. I've seen people break up and they go and break take their cars or their windows. It's becoming very stupid because I feel like now you're feeling like they've taken so much from you and you're so angry. So before you get to that point where it's becoming dangerous, Be truthful to yourself, and believe that everybody is worthy of love. I believe that. I don't believe that nobody can love you. I don't believe in that. There's always somebody for you. So don't sell yourself cheap. When it's time to leave, leave. You've done your best. Live in peace and give yourself the opportunity to meet somebody else that may end up treating you like a flower. So yeah.
Well, and I love what you said about dating is to try just to try somebody out and to see if they're a good fit. Because when you look at dating, you're absolutely right. The whole goal of dating is to see, hey, are you compatible with my life? Are you somebody that we can join lives to and form a family or a single unit and start moving in a singular direction? And that's the big question that you must be asking yourselves. Like, okay, I'm dating you. Is this somebody I could see myself with long term? Is this somebody that I would like to hitch my wagon to and commit to long term? If the answer is no, then it's like, you got to move on. It's as simple as that. And the heartbreak sucks. It's hard, but you got to go through it. And again, sometimes the grass is dead on the other side, but sometimes it's a lot greener, especially when the grass that you have is pretty much dead already. So you might as well just jump ship at that point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think also, like, in relationship, there are things that you would do that will make your partner start taking you for granted. How do I say it? Like, you can't sell yourself so cheap and expect someone to treat you like gold. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's why I talked about the fact that you cannot call yourself a girlfriend to someone and you've basically lived with them in the house for 3 good years, plain wife. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you've lost your kind of respect, I would say. If you really want a man to marry you, that is a decency, a decent thing to do. Like, if he loves you to some point, he would want to put a ring on it. He would want to have you for the rest of his life. And he would. I've seen a guy that got his girlfriend a ring of 25K. And, it was an interview, and the guy was like, how much is the ring? He said 25K. And it felt like, and this guy was saying, you know what, she's worth a $50,000 ring. You know, you see how much he values her, right? So there must be some things about her, like the things that she's really proven, like she's really shown the guy how valuable. Like, you have to value yourself enough for someone to see that, right? You can't tell me. I know it happens a lot. That's why I'm always against moving into a guy's house too soon. I do. Like, what is the rush? You know what I'm saying? That what is the rush? That kills relationship very fast. It kills relationship very fast. So the point is, to some point, and that's why when I saw that story, to be frank with you, I didn't blame the guy too much. It takes two, like you said. I felt like I blamed her too. I blame that too because there must be something, there must be a way you've presented yourself to him that he doesn't see the value in you. Like,
Well, the question that I have is, what expectations did she set up for the relationship? Okay, I'm going to move in with you with the expectation that we're going to get married. And the question I have is, again, what expectations were set up? Because if she'd set no expectations up in the relationship, then I think she got what she asked for. She got a relationship with no expectations. And now all of a sudden she's upset because he's not doing what she wants, but she never set up those expectations. Now, those are different. Expectations are different than ultimatums. Ultimatums you should only ever use once or twice in a relationship's lifespan, which is usually along the lines of, if you don't take me out on a date, I am breaking up with you. That is different from an expectation, which is, if you would like to continue to date me, I would love it if we could have a date once a week. That's an expectation, as opposed to the ultimatum, which is, listen, It's one way or the other. And if I'm not getting it, we're done.
I think she should do that because I've got to that point. I think it's that's like the last result type of thing. Yeah, and yeah. So I like that you mentioned expectation, right? Okay, so which means this expectation of listen, if the guy I know some guys love like they're so much in love and like, oh babe, move have my key, I want you to be able to come in and out. Now this is what I think. Rather than living with a guy, like you said, go and come, go spend the weekend and go to your house. You know what I'm saying? Go to your space. Sometimes it's good to have your space. Go and come, go spend a week, go spend weekend and go and come. Now if you have to go with the expectation, maybe because you feel like you guys can actually manage expenses together, and save some money, yeah, that's a good reason to want to live with someone more like, and then hopefully see where it goes. So, like you talked about expectation where you say, okay, you know what? This is what I want. I want to get married one day, and you're a nice guy. I would like to get to know you more and see whether goes, but I would like us to, I can only live with you for a year. If it doesn't happen within that 1 year, it's not gonna happen, right? So that expectation, like that, I don't know if it's ultimatum, but that's why I see it. I feel like the expectation of I'm not just gonna move to your house with no end date. I'm moving to your house because I want to use our opportunity to get to know you, and hopefully we can also save because now we're sharing expenses. And I'm hoping that in the next 1 year we can get married. And it's not like you telling the guys, because the guy that choose when he wants to get married. You know what I'm saying? Like it has to be the man's decision to say, okay. Now, if a man says, babe, I'm dating you, you will know if a guy wants to marry, like I'm dating you to marry now. And if that aligns with your goal, you tell a guy, I see myself getting married in a year, and it's like, I don't think I'm ready in a year. My sister, please find someone else. Is but if you're flexible, say, okay, you know what, I'm still young, I can wait for 2 years. Okay, so it's your call. But it has to be an alignment to not the guy saying, I don't think I know, I'm not ready yet. I'll just see how it goes. And you want to get married, then there's gonna be a problem. Because I've seen that a lot.
You have to be in alignment. And to kind of go back to something you said, your partner gets to vote on anything that you do. If you say you want to move in with them, they get to vote if that's a good idea or not. They will vote on if that's a good idea or not. And I think a lot of people get their partners voting confused. So, for example, they'll say, oh, let's move in together and we'll see how things go. And then the partner starts getting really distant and starts kind of moving away. And it's like, well, what happened? It's like, no, they voted. They didn't like that answer. And that's what they're doing. And to kind of bring it in more in a work context, when you have a terrible manager, the employees vote and they just leave the manager. They just walk away. They transfer jobs. There's high turnover. And it's the same thing with dating. It's at the end of the day, you can ask for whatever you want, but your partner gets to vote on if this is a good idea or not. And they always vote.
Yeah, it takes two to actually choose that. And like I said, basically, if you have to move in with a guy, have a plan. Have a plan and see if that aligns with your plan. Not everybody wants to get married, right? Just like not everybody wants to have kids. So it makes sense that okay, we just want companionship, we just want to date and see how it goes. That makes sense. But then you also have to come up with a plan to be like, what do we want to do to spice up the relationship? Okay, maybe we'll go on dates twice a month. Maybe we would go on vacation once a year. There should be something that kind of there should be a plan like that where you're constantly pouring into the relationship to make it stronger, better. But if you guys are just going with the flow, and that's what happens when I'm gonna go Christian way, and that's what happens when you rush into a relationship, just excitement. It's just excitement and sex, right? And that is basically what drives the relationship. Basically, if you separate sex from the relationship, there's nothing. I've seen situations where a girl would go visit, as someone was telling me, she'll go visit the guy, and basically the guy is excited, right? He just want to have sex. And after that, nothing. There's no substance. It's like how they watch movie together. There's no substance. He doesn't want to try. He doesn't want to do anything. And then she felt like, let me see. What if I tell him? And whenever she goes and she said, "Oh, I'm in my period" or whatever, is moody, or maybe wants to sleep. So I want to take a nap. Is there's just that mood change, and 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 that's an example of a situation where you guys just start with sex and it's just that chemistry and that's whatever excitement, and outside of that, there's nothing to hold on to, and it gets to a point where there's basically nothing because now you're used to each other. It's not exciting. And that's the thing about going to your house and coming back is when you go to his house, he's very excited. He wants to have you. He wants to do whatever. He wants to take you out because he wants to. But then, and you go and you come back and you go and you come back. And then because you spend time talking on the phone. And so when you're talking on the phone, you're getting to know each other because you're going to be checking on each other every time compared to when you're just in the same space. He can get sex whenever he likes. You're playing all the roles. He's tired of talking to you at a particular point. There's nothing exciting. In fact, he's not even excited about taking. He's not even excited to take you out. There's nothing. There's no excitement anymore. So you need to. There should be some excitement. There should be some mystery in the relationship. He should not know everything about you completely, because he should know. Like it's a process, right? And that's that. And I think those are example of things that kills the spark in a relationship.
Well, absolutely. You shouldn't know everything about your partner. Arguably, you never will know everything about your partner, and it should be that way. And to be honest, my partner doesn't need to know about my 2-year-old self who screwed up in kindergarten. Like, why would I tell them that? They don't need to know. And a lot of people are like, yeah, Adam, that's trivial. But what about? It's like, no, like some things just don't need to be shared. And that is okay. You're allowed to have your secrets. And again, it's setting up boundaries and expectations in a relationship, which is like, I'm allowed to have my secrets. You're allowed to have your secrets. As long as it's not going to damage the relationship, it doesn't matter. It just simply doesn't matter. And I love the point that you brought up, which is oftentimes relationships are built upon sex. And the sex is good. The sex is really good. However, when you remove the sex, what is left? And if you can't say, you know, if I remove the sex, I would have my best friend, that's a problem. If you can't even say a friend, that's a big problem because relationships are more than just sex. You should be able to sit down and say, hey, I have a friend that I can do all these amazing things with, and it makes me so happy. And if you can't say that, like it's a fun time, but is this long-term relationship material?
Yeah, I think I heard of a story where a situation, I think it's real, at these male prisons, versus women prison. The male prison, you would always see the women come and visit the men. There's always visitation, like women coming to visit their boyfriend, long-term boyfriend. But then the female prison, they hardly see boyfriends. It's not because most of the reasons are, when they were dating, basically what was there was sex. Now she's not available to give the sex. He has to go find it somewhere else. And that's the difference between what you said about there should be friendship in that relationship outside of sex. Because what if something happens to you, you're sick, and you can't even do it anymore? You're paralyzed and whatever. So are you gonna tell me that the relationship is dead? Those kind of relationship where one person went through some crazy accident or whatever, and you see the man or the woman still by his side, That's because they built something strong and solid beyond, and that's the difference between a situation where a woman would, going to have an issue, an accident, or a disaster happens or whatever, and the man is gone. And that's because basically what they were just to each other was just fun, right? And it's very important that sometimes we need to reevaluate our relationship. And also, it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for something solid, something beautiful, something long lasting, then it's always good to reevaluate, pause a little bit, and ask yourself, will this man, if something like this happens to me or whatever, will this man still be by my side? Or, you test. Sometimes it's okay to test your relationship. It's not in a negative way that will destroy the relationship, but it's okay to look back, pause, and test or ask questions and see if this is in alignment with my future self, right?
No, I have to put a caveat in here about
Okay.
testing relationships because I've seen some people test their relationships to disastrous results. And one of the ones I heard about was a woman was curious if her boyfriend was going to be faithful. And so she hired another woman to flirt with him. And oh boy, did this woman flirt with this man. In fact,
Stupid.
it was to the point that she was rather aggressive and she was encouraging him to leave her. And so he himself, in this awkward situation, was like, he ended up deciding, you know what, I'm going to leave her. And in her mind, she's like, oh, I'm so happy that, at least I know that he wasn't going to be loyal. But at the same time, it's like, this was an artificial conditions that you set up where she was very aggressively pursuing him. And like, again, if he ever found out that you were testing him, like, I don't know how I would feel if I found out my girlfriend was testing me. Like,
Okay. Yeah.
there's like trust issues going on there. You'd
So,
be curious. You'd be like, all right, if I meet another girl, is this going to be her trying to test me?
okay. So this is how I explain the test. I understand you, and I understand. I don't. Yeah. So this is how I explain it. Like I said testing in such a way that is not going to ruin the relationship. So now, okay, so there are people that will come to your life to say, okay, you know what, I want to marry you. I want to make all these promises, and their actions is not aligning with what they're saying. So instead of you wasting your time, I don't buy the idea where you go and you get a friend to start checking and testing you. That's a dangerous thing. If the
Yeah,
guy is
don't do
very,
that.
don't do that. If the guy is very important to you, don't just give him away like that, because your man is also human. When you get to the point, this is what I would say. When you get to a point when you start suspecting that you should even test, when it gets to a point where you're thinking that he's not faithful, there is a high chance that he's not faithful. Sometimes it's instinct, sometimes it works. And sometimes it could be from trauma. Maybe you have also dealt with a lot of cheating situation and you assume that everybody is cheating, right? Even if it's not cheating, you might think it's cheating. Some things are trauma kind of based. Now, but most of the time, if you're saying that there is a lot of inconsistency in the relationship, his words and his actions, and just if you see him having a Tinder account, Bumble account, that is an example. But there's some things that just like an example of the lady asking question. She knows that is no longer interested, but she's basically looking for people to confirm. Because when I looked at the comments, people were saying, "Listen, you've spoken to him so many times, and he hasn't changed. He's not just interested. Move on." Some things are glaring. He's cheating. But you're looking for, I don't know, some unnecessary evidence to prove that. I don't know what you gain from that. But yes, but if sometimes don't test to ruin the relationship, there should be a genuine reason. It's not like you get someone to start spying on your boyfriend. That's toxic way. Okay, so so basically, I would say if you have a man that you're not sure if he's saying the truth because he's promised you all this thing, and you're building your life with this person. Now, what I said is evaluate, pause, or kind of pull back a bit, or I don't know, reevaluate your relationship and ask different question, plan different scenario in your head. If I take off sex from this relationship, do we are we still gonna have something? Are we friends? If I speak to this guy about something that is important to me, does he apply it? Or am I always just repeating the same thing over and over again? That shows that he doesn't value you. He's not scared to lose you. So that's an example of test. It's not toxic test. So that you reevaluate. It's like business. You have to create dashboard to see how your business is doing. You have to test different variables. Same thing with relationship. You have to test different variables. You test different situations, scenarios, and ask yourself, if, for example, something like this happened to me, will this man be by my side? And give reasons why you think so. I even ask him questions and say, babe, if this, ask him the question a few times. Ask him today, ask him 3 months from now, see if the answer is consistent. If you keep changing answers, that tells you something like he's not even sure what he would do, one, and there's a possibility that it will not be there for you. So you're asking the same question different times or different ways and seeing if he's going to give you a solid answer or he's going to keep changing his answers. So those are the kind of tests I am talking about, not spying, not setting up your girlfriend. The thing about it, actually, I saw something like that today. The girl said, you know, she doesn't know if her boyfriend is serious. The guy is not consistent with his messaging and all. She's looking for someone that can go maybe on Snapchat and try to chat with him and see what it would say. Maybe it would to ask, just kind of chat with him, like flirt with him, and see what it would say. Maybe it would say he doesn't have a girlfriend. I'm like, you know what? People were like, I'm in. Okay, I would do. I'm like, oh gosh, she wants to just lose the guy.
Well, like some of these people do not have your best interest at heart, and they want
Serious.
to break you up. They want to see your relationship burn to the
Oh
ground.
god.
It's wild that you would go out there and be like, "Hey, I want you to test my partner." Like, oh god, if you have to do that, I don't think your relationship's long for this world.
And I also should as I level of desperation. Why I feel like some people basically just live around boyfriends and men and women. Some people cannot just live. It's like when I see situations like that, I'm like, can you just have a life? Like, why does your life have to revolve around someone to the point that you start creating kind of things like that, testing strategies like that? I felt very bad for her, to be frank with you. I don't, it just make me just feel like, oh gosh, we need to love ourselves more. We need to understand that we are valuable and good by yourself to start with. You do not have to have someone in your life to feel complete or needed or wanted. You are so good by yourself and you deserve to have someone in your space that can give you the love that you deserve. Some people would think you will ask a guy for something, like maybe, babe, I want to stay celibate. And the girl will be like, no, I can't do that. And then you feel like, then you give it. I'm telling you, there's a guy that will to do anything for you. And if it's celibate, to be celibate, he would go for it just to be with you. And that's why I say, don't okay, so don't give up on your standard, I would say. Don't give up on yourself. You're worthy of love. And if you can't get the love that you deserve, please be single and be happy. Not to be
Well,
miserable.
yeah, because happiness comes from yourself. Happiness does not come from somebody else. You have to be happy first in order to have a happy relationship. And if you're miserable by yourself, you're going to be miserable in that relationship. And I love what you said about in regards with love. And it's very true. Everybody deserves love. If they are the right person to give you that love, that's a whole different conversation. And that's
Yeah.
the question you must ask yourself. And it's always coming back to their actions. People say a lot of things, but their actions show you their true worth.
Yeah.
If they love you, they're going to show up for you. They're going to be there when it counts. They're going to invest into you. They're going to try to speak their truth the best that they can. They might screw it up because let's be honest, everyone has their flaws, but they're going to try their hardest to be there for you.
Yeah. So basically, just like the lady, if I was going to give an advice, I'm going to say, and I know I'm going to probably give her advice too. I would say if anybody can relate with that story, where you've given so much for a man or you've given so much for a woman, and I'll speak from the woman perspective here, and then I'm going to speak from the man perspective. So you've given so much for a man, and it gets to a point where you feel like you're the one initiating, and basically you're the one pursuing him now. At this point, that's changed, and you are not sure what to do. I think we've talked about a lot of things here, but one thing comes with, I don't know, sometimes you probably have to give the ultimatum right at this point, especially if you've over and over again spoken to him about something that concerns you. And it's also very important you also look inwardly and ask yourself, how are you contributing to the condition right now? It could be that maybe you're nagging a lot and that is stressing the guy out and is withdrawing. It could be that you're always picking on him a lot and he doesn't see the reason to want to put effort because maybe whatever he does, you feel like it's not good enough. Nobody wants their mother really. They want a woman and they want support. Those are the things that can make a man withdraw and not wanting to put effort in a relationship because I don't think he wants to say he wants to settle down with someone that makes his life miserable. And you might find out that you're the one always initiating, talking, and nagging. So it's always the point is that may not be the case, but it's always important to look inwardly first, or you have a conversation with him, and then he will tell you the things that you're doing that doesn't make him feel loved, and you guys can come together if you love each other and fix it. First, that's the first step. But if you've done all that and it's not working out, you have to understand that you're dating, and dating is meant to give it's an opportunity for you to get to see someone aligns with you or the best person that you want to spend your life with. And if it's not that, then move on gracefully, not jump from one person to the other. Move on, think, give us, and if you find someone along the way when things, when you've tried your best, maybe it can happen. There's no straight line to how to do it. But whichever way, maybe you might find your greener grass somewhere else and beautiful. But the point is, have the conversation first, and then if it doesn't work, then move on. It's not marriage, it's dating. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, if it's not working, move on. But before you pull that gun and just pull that trigger, you got to ask questions because some things cannot be undone. For example, I remember dating a woman and she said to me, she said, "Adam, I don't love you anymore." And when she pulled that trigger, our relationship was fundamentally dead in my eyes.
Mm,
We would never get back together. It was done. Thanks for coming out. Bye-bye. And later down the road, she came back to me and she said, "Hey, Adam, I was wondering if we could get back into a relationship." And I said, "No, you don't love me." It's as simple
yeah,
as that. So before you ever pull a trigger as intense as, you know what, we are done, you got to sit back and you got to start asking yourself questions. You got to turn internally. Am I done with this relationship? If the answer is yes, then you walk away. If the answer is no, then the question becomes, what is keeping me in this relationship? What do I like about this relationship? Can this relationship get better? If the answer is you don't really like what's going on in the relationship, you don't really think it's going to get better, you're kind of checked out, then it's just time to walk away. But if it's, hey, you know what? There's some really good things about this relationship that I'm enjoying. I think that this relationship has the potential to get better. And I kind of want to keep it going, then awesome. Then it's time to have the conversation with the partner and say, hey, let's talk about this, and really put it out on the line. And this is when you would do an ultimatum and say, hey, I'm struggling with this relationship. I've been struggling for a number of years now. This is what I'm seeing. We've been talking about, we've been talking about it. If things don't get better, I'm going to have to walk away. And it's not that I don't love you, it's that I need to start looking after myself. But I would like for us to continue in this relationship, and simply put it online. See what they say. And maybe they'll come back to you and they'll say, yeah, I'm not really feeling it either. And it's like, awesome. You have your answer. You just move on. And maybe they'll come back to you and say, no, I really want to make this work. In which case, now you have buy in. You have to get a third party help to come in at this point. So I'd probably look for a relationship therapist or a marriage therapist and just work with them on just making this work again. And it's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a few months at least, because it took a few years to get into this point. It's going to take at least a few months to get out of it. That's what I would say.
That's great. That's actually great. So I like the fact that you can start by asking yourself questions. And that's why I said look inwardly first. Ask yourself questions. How am I contributing to it? First, and then you approach it with a conversation. And like I said, always know that relationship is not a do or die situation. It comes to a point you have to look after yourself. You have to ask yourself the question, why did I want to go into a relationship to start with? What is your goal? You're trying to bring something beautiful into your life. It started with you and the person coming to the picture. So, and then if you envision yourself, you get to a point where you grow and you outgrown the relationship. It happens. And yeah, outgrow it, but be graceful about it. Like make it in a way that it's not toxic or it's not resentful or. But at the end of the day, also look out for yourself because this life, there's so much craziness happening out there. And at some point, you have to also think about yourself. It's also good to think about other people too because you brought people into your life. But make the right decisions that works for your life long term, right? Long term. So if you, yeah, and that's it. I love that. Great
All you
advice
can do is make the best decisions for yourself
for
with the
yourself.
information that you have available right now. That's all you can do.
Yeah. So that's a great. We actually touched different areas today, and hopefully, if you're someone that is like, let's call her Rose, and you can relate to that story, or it's like currently what you're going through right now. I hope we've been able to, say one or two things to help you make a good decision that works for you. And I don't know, Adam, do you want to say any last advice, any last word for our viewers?
I think the last advice I'd give out to them is if you're an individual that is struggling in this dating world, I get it. You're not alone. Please reach out to either Evelyn or myself. Our information is down in the bio, and we're more than happy to sit down one on one and help just clear out the noise and see what's going on and how to help you get to what you want out of life.
Thank you so much, Adam. And guys, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video to someone that thinks needs this. And we can't wait to see you guys again next week. Bye for
Take
now.
care.